Hi, my name is Selena Maison-Pierre, and I'm going to show us 3 of my favorite yoga poses for tight hip flexors. So whether you sit all day or walk all day, or we're traveling or a runner, which I am, we can get really tight in our hip flexors. So these are my 3 favorite poses to help you stretch that out and open up. So let's get started. So our first pose is a classic low lunge. You can come to it from a downward facing dog where you tuck your toes, lift the hips, but you can also just come from your knees and step your right foot forward. So the setup for a low lunge is pretty important. As you can see, my right knee is a 90-degree angle. My knee and ankle are perfectly aligned. And then you'll tap the left knee down and point the left toes. If you have sensitive kneecaps, you can just place a blanket or a towel or a carpet underneath that left knee. But so here we are, we're nice and set up. And now what I want us to do is you're going to take your right shoulder and just nuzzle it onto the right knee. And then fingertips will come really wide in this big sort of wide V shape. So you're really supported. And then the cherry on top of this pose, drop the head. Ooh. And you're going to take a couple of breaths. And by a couple, I mean about 5 to 10. Really allowing the front of your hips to come forward. Letting your head drop completely so that you're just softening through the whole back line of the body. And you're gonna breathe and fill up the belly and just sort of observe as that left psoas muscle, that's the hip flexor, relaxes, releases, and stretches out. Remember, your exhale is your best friend in these poses because that's how you really let go of any of tension that you might be holding on to. So you'll come back up. Oof, how'd we do? I love then to pull the hips back and just come out of that for a moment. Flex the right toes. And you can pulse that a couple of times, coming forward and coming back, bringing a little bit more of a dynamic movement into our stretch. And then we're gonna switch. So maybe you step the right knee down and the left foot forward. Maybe you come to down dog as a nice sort of rebalancing to help you get that left foot forward as well. And again, you can see on this side, my left ankle and my left knee are really aligned. That's going to protect the knee joint over time. Right knee taps down, right toes are pointed, and you can always use the top of the right toes to take a little bit of pressure out of that front right knee. Bring your body forward, lower down, lay down, and now you maybe get a better visual of it. The left knee and the shoulder start to kind of make contact. Arms go wide on fingertips. Drop the head. Whew. And as the head heavies and you start to breathe into that right hip flexor, you might notice differences between 2 sides of the body. That's really good information. Never judgment, just curiosity, just noticing, that hip's a little tighter than the other. And again, you'll stay here for about 5 to 10 breaths. You can always pause the video and stay longer if you'd like. When you're ready to come out, we'll bring the hands back up, slide the hips back, flex the left toes. And you can do that forward and back and just kind of ease into it a little bit more. So nice. And then we'll step the left knee down and move on. The next posture that I have for tight hip flexors is a really unique one. So watch the setup. If you're familiar with a yoga practice, it'll be similar to pigeon pose, but it's not pigeon, so make sure to watch. My favorite way to come into it is from a downward facing dog. We'll start with the right knee, and you're gonna slide your right knee forward just behind the right wrist. So you can see my toe is, I almost fell. You can see my toes are pointed, the shin is flat. From there, beyond fingertips, lengthen the left leg back behind you and lower the left knee down. So you're in this sort of nice, tall, almost like a back bend feeling shape on fingertips. If the floor is really far away from you, you can stack up blocks or whatever you need to lift yourself up higher. From here, we're gonna drop our weight over to that left hip. Oof. And then from there, maybe you take your face and look over the right shoulder. And now the real cherry on top of this posture is really sending your breath all the way up and down that left hip flexor. So you're gonna feel almost from the left kneecap up sometimes to the left armpit, that length. That's a big tissue line called the fascia, but that's where we're traveling up. And I want you to take about 5 to 10 breaths there, really leaning into that left hip, really softening. Relax the muscles in the face, exhale completely through the mouth, and sit with whatever is coming up for you. And all that means is just breathing through the sensation. When you've gone about 5 or so breaths, 5 to 10, you'll bring yourself back, plant the palms, tuck your back left toes, and we'll come back into a downward facing dog, just as a transition. If you need to leave the knees down, that's absolutely an option for you. To move on, we'll go onto the left side. You'll take your left knee, slide it all the way forward behind the left behind the left wrist. From there, lengthen the right leg back behind you and point the right toes. Lift up onto the fingertips and look forward, so you get this nice opening through the chest. You sort of find your balance, and then you'll let your right hip start to fall towards the floor. In turn, you'll begin to gaze over the left shoulder. And there's a lot of sensation coming up. Maybe you notice differences between the two sides. That's information as well. We always want to stay balanced. So you stay here and breathe for just as many breaths as you did on the other side. Maybe feeling, layers of the body, layers even of like the nervous system releasing. I always think of that scene in Shrek where he says, I'm like an onion, and there's layers of an onion. And so you're kind of witnessing as the body goes a little bit deeper into those layers and noticing what that relaxation or what that letting go in the hip flexor feels like. So when you are even with the other side, we'll come back through center, sit up nice and tall, refine center, tuck the right toes, lift the right knee, gently step your way back, maybe into a down dog, and then we'll just tap the knees down and sit on the shins. Give yourself a moment, because I know that can really feel like a lot in the hip flexor, so you just get to sort of settle here. Our final yoga pose for tight hip flexors will be on your back. So you can go ahead and come forward, and we'll lay down on the back, starting with your knees bent and the feet on the floor. Great. And already you can just sort of allow your spine to settle down. Feel the feet on the ground, feel the knees bent. And then we'll lengthen the left leg long. So already that's starting to lengthen the hip flexor. Hug the right knee into the chest. So we've got a long left hip, and we're hugging the right knee in, and you're gonna feel that cinching of the right hip flexor. And then I want you to rock the right knee side to side. So we're just bringing some dynamic movement. You can think you're almost stirring the thigh bone in the socket of the right hip. Our joints create a lubrication fluid called synovial fluid, which is essentially like lubrication for the joints, but we only create that when we actually move the joints. And a nice lubricated joint is going to support the muscles as well, or open muscles help support a lubricated joint. So we've just moved around the right thigh. Let's just reach the right foot up to the ceiling and take some circles around the ankle. And you can stay there as long as you like. You'll hug the right knee back in, step it down, step the left foot down, and we're gonna switch. So you'll lengthen the right leg long, hug the left knee in, give it a nice squeeze, and you're sort of pulling in and cinching in, and then just rocking that left knee side to side. And as you rock the left knee side to side, keep your right leg heavy. Keep that right hip flexor elongated as you are sort of closing the aperture of your left hip flexor. And again, this idea of stirring the left thigh bone around in the socket of the hip, just bringing some movement through that space. maybe interlacing the palms behind the back of the left thigh and just pointing and flexing and circling through the ankle. Everything is linked, so opening up through the ankle is going to help open up through the legs as well. And then you'll step the left foot down, step the right foot down. Let's hug the knees into the chest. Just get a nice squeeze, rocking side to side. If you have tight hip flexors, you're probably noticing that you get a little tight in the low back as well. So this is going to elongate the low back as you rock. And then let's just rock our way all the way up to a seat. Go ahead and come to face me. How'd we do? Those are my 3 favorite poses for tight hip flexors. My name is Selena Maison-Pierre. Make sure to check out my website and YouTube channel for more videos to help support a healthy and moving body. Thank you.